This is You've Already Been Hacked, recorded on
7 August 2026.
Welcome back to You've Already Been Hacked. I took last week off, so there was no podcast. It was really needed, though. I got to spend some quality time at the end of the summer with the small digital clones. Cowboy, how have you been, my friend?
I need one of those. Good. As you were teasing me before we started broadcasting, we'll be getting up early to teach Pentest Plus CompTIA Bootcamp this week, so I'm a little tired myself. I got 2 conferences coming up in the next 3 weeks, so at least one is local, thank goodness. But so busy traveling. But you know,
I get to
minor
teach.
complaints.
I get to teach a threats of AI seminar in September, where I will have to be up before 2 a.m. to teach it.
That sounds amazing.
I'm not looking forward to it. I mean, I'm looking forward to it, but I'm not looking forward to it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's gonna be a long day, and then just go to work normal the next day afterwards. It's gonna be fun. Okay, well, with that and our pining over the lack of sleep, which is that of just about every cyber professional, let's get into this week's news. In our top story, Meta Muse Spark 1.1 hacked an external organization during a cybersecurity test. Before I even get to the summary, it seems like every one of these frontier managed closed source models are escaping their sandboxes. That's kind of interesting, especially when the refrain from a lot of places is open source models and open weights are bad because there's no controls. That's my minor soapbox for the moment. Meta's Muse Spark 1.1, an LLM released last month, hacked an unnamed third-party organization during a cybersecurity evaluation run by Meta in collaboration with Irregular, an AI cybersecurity startup. The test was designed to assess the model's hacking capability within a sandboxed environment. However, a configuration error gave Muse internet access, which it used to compromise the external organization's infrastructure. The model alerted its internal environment, though it's unclear whether it also accessed internal data. The model altered, not alerted, altered the organization's internal environment. Ow, that's scary just in and of itself. This is the latest in a string of frontier model breaches over the past month. At least 5 similar instances have occurred, including OpenAI's GPT 5.6 Soul, breaching Hugging Face's production systems, all stemming from Irregular-powered sandboxes that were accidentally given internet access. Interesting. A 6th incident was disclosed by the UK's AI Security Institute, which tested Anthropic's Mythos 5 and OpenAI's GPT 5.6 Soul in sandboxes deliberately given internet access. Mythos 5 attempted to inject malicious code into an open-source GitHub repository. Muse scored a 53.3 on Deep Software Engineering 1.1, a benchmark evaluating AI models' long-running coding tests, notably lower than GPT 5.6 Terra score of 64.3. Meta released the more capable Muse Spark 1.2 on the same day as the disclosure, alongside Muse Code, a companion AI agent designed to split complex tasks among sub-agents. Cliff Steinhauer of the National Cybersecurity Alliance called the incident a fundamental flaw in how organizations approach AI security, noting that instruction is not containment. Telling a model it lacks internet access is a guideline, not a guardrail. This is important because this is not a theoretical AI safety concern. It's now a documented pattern. 3 separate AI companies, OpenAI, Anthropic, and Meta, have now confirmed their models breached real organizations during testing, all through the same root cause: sandbox misconfigurations that left the internet available and accessible. If your organization operates AI evaluation environments, deploys agentic AI with tool access or host services that could be reached from the internet, you are potentially in a blast radius of next misconfigured sandbox Hades, is how I'll put it. The UK AI Security Institute deliberate internet access test confirms that frontier models will exploit any available network path to complete their assigned tasks. Well, Cowboy, how we feeling?
Oh man, it's like deja vu. spent the week teaching, what may be some future pen testers how misconfigurations
Yep.
are like such a major reason, we're able to get into some of these networks. And
Yep.
so, here we go. And I'm also going to say that that's a little bit of an oxymoron from the UK's AI Security Institute, because uh, is it really a sandbox if you've deliberately given it internet access? That kind of goes against calling
Well, I
it
mean,
in a
well, hold on,
sandbox.
hold on, hold on. Sandbox doesn't mean not connected to the internet. It could be limited access to capability as well.
Uh,
It could.
I think arguably a true sandbox is not having it's isolated from leaking out,
But,
i.e., not having internet access.
okay, but Docker
Well,
is a sandbox, isn't it?
eh, eh.
Yeah.
uh,
Right.
we might have to agree to disagree on
Okay.
that a
Okay.
little bit. It's a
Okay.
little bit,
Look,
but
I don't think of when I think of disconnected from the internet, I think of an air gapped system, not a sandbox. But okay, we can agree to disagree.
well, we'll have to chew on that during the week, see what some of our colleagues think. That's it. It's interesting two different views on that, but neither here nor there. Interesting of note, it going along the lines of that same sandboxing incident, the model did attempt to inject malicious code into an open source GitHub repository. So
That one of them
AI,
did. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
yeah, please leave GitHub alone. It's getting hit in the face already by human actors. We don't need you making it any worse. Thank you.
I mean, the positive is
So,
it didn't go after NPM, and that's getting hit by everything else, right? So there's a thing.
right. Or the other big one we've been talking about a lot lately, the website one. The name's escaping me. Sorry, folks.
WordPress.
Yeah, WordPress. It's gonna get today at WordPress.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a lot of stories about these models breaking out and kind of getting a little rogue, and it's not freak out time, right? It's not, but it's a little cause for concern,
But I
a
think
little
that
bit.
the point that the gentleman made from the Cybersecurity Alliance is that what was I'm going to go back here. Give me a second. Instruction is not containment. Telling a model
Mhm.
that it lacks internet access is a guideline, not a guardrail. I think that the
Right.
problem here isn't that the models are designed. You tell a model to do something, it's gonna figure out how to do the problem if it's doing an agentic workflow, right? What tools do I have access to? What can I do, and what do my instructions say? Well, right now, it told me to do this. It says I doesn't have this, but wait, I actually have it, so I'm going to go use it. The model isn't doing anything that it wasn't told it couldn't do. You told me to complete the task. I completed the task. You gave me the resources to do the task. The problem is we're not configuring things appropriately, which has always been the problem, right? As you pointed out,
Right.
misconfiguration is what the success hole is for a compromise.
It is. And I think hopefully what we're seeing now is hopefully researchers are figuring out the better ways to put guardrails on, right? That are not bypassed, overlooked, ignored. Pick your word from the model, right? But we've got to look at what's happening and why, so we can figure out how to prevent it from being, significant in the future. Which is always good. You got to research stuff.
You
It's
gotta,
new.
yeah, yeah.
It's new,
I agree. I agree.
right? So,
I'm concerned that these models are built to complete tasks first, regardless of instruction. And that's the way it's been. But that goes back to the old argument of minimum viable product versus minimum secure viable product. Security bolted on after the fact is never going to be good enough, and that's kind of where we're headed right now, which is kind of unfortunate. Okay, in our next story, critical flaws in Claude Code, Gemini CLI, and OpenAI Codex enable RCE, and supply chain attacks. Novi security researcher Elad Merge, I might have his last name mispronounced, I apologize, demonstrated critical flaws in 3 major AI coding agents: Anthropic's Claude, Google's Gemini CI, and OpenAI's Codex, that allow remote code execution and supply chain attacks. The attack paths were demonstrated using the vendor's own repositories under default configurations, meaning no custom tweaking or misconfigurations were required. Well, that's even worse than what our last story said. The core failure mode: coding agents read issues, inspect source code, run tools, modify files, and access workflow credentials in CI/CD pipelines. When one component labels attacker influenced content or state as quote unquote safe, the agent proceeds to execute it, effectively giving an attacker zero privileged RCE through a crafted GitHub issue. Pull request or repository file. In CI/CD and repository automation tasks, agents can read workflow credentials, modify build files, and push changes, making them high-value targets for supply chain compromise. This matters because these are not edge case vulnerabilities or in obscure tools. They affect the three most widely deployed AI coding assistants, demonstrating against vendor-maintained repositories with default settings. Organizations that have integrated Claude Code, Gemini CLI, or open AI codecs into their development workflows effectively grant AI agents access to their source code, CI/CD pipelines, and potentially production credentials. An attacker who can craft a GitHub issue or pull request that an agent will process can achieve that remote code execution on systems wherever the agents are operating. So, what can or should you be doing about this? Well, review how you're using these agents. The three main ones, right? Code, Gemini, and Codex are configured in your development environments, particularly for their CI/CD credentials, your source repositories, and your build pipelines. Implement input validation and sandboxing for all content that AI agents process, including GitHub issues, pull requests, and repository files. Apply the principle of least privilege to your coding agents. That should be like rule number one. Monitor AI agents for their activity logs for unexpected file modifications, credential access, or outbound network connections. And until vendors patch these things, consider running AI coding agents in an isolated environment with no access to production systems or real credentials. Cowboy? Cowboy, did you put your mic on mute?
Oh, I am on mute. Sorry about that. Thank you. It doesn't just happen in Zoom, folks. It happens on podcasts as well. Interesting enough, Anthropic did get a CVE assigned for this. It's 2026-54-316, but it's only a 6, so barely
Only a
worth
6.
mentioning. Only a 6. I mean, it was a somewhat slow CVE week. That's okay. But Google did rate a CVSS 10 and issued a breaking trust model change for their Gemini CLI execution. So a lot going on in this news update. We've certainly hit on CI/CD repositories before, right? And third party, GitHub, all that kind of stuff. Really just reinforcing the fact that, and I actually brought this up in the bootcamp this week, that folks need to be extra diligent in their CI/CD pipelines, and especially pulling material from GitHub, running hash checks, making sure that there's not malware or bad embedded code within the repository you're pulling down from.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that what we're teaching is exactly what's going on. So maybe we're at the curve. I wouldn't say ahead, but right? We're not behind. That's important.
It's good to bring up real world stuff, right? When you're teaching a class,
absolutely,
it makes every class different, right? But yeah, it's the relevant, like, hey, here's how we're seeing this particular thing in the wild. That's why we look for it as pen testers.
It's interesting to me that all three of the major platforms had the same flaw, and that sounds like a design problem more than they didn't catch it, right? Because you wouldn't think that all three would have the same issue. So that's just another interesting data point to me.
Yeah, there's something about the underlying flow of the code, right? That is the same, irregardless of who's making it or who's training it,
That
right?
also makes me
There's
think like the not major ones, like the open
oh yeah,
style ones, like Open Code or Nanocoder, who we interviewed the original creator of on this podcast. I wonder if they have similar underlying issues. I don't know, but it's just an interesting thought that just popped into my head.
well, hopefully if they're listening, they go back and look
Yeah,
for sure.
100%. Okay, on to our next story. ClickFix attacks push macOS info stealer for crypto theft attacks. Huntress,
Not,
we have friends at Huntress, don't we?
hey, way to go, Huntress.
Discovered a new Go-based malware delivered through ClickFix social engineering attacks targeting macOS users. The campaign uses phishing emails with links to pages instructing victims to run terminal commands. The downloaded bash script acts as a profiler and malware loader. It collects system information, identifies the logged in user account names, and retrieves a mock-O payload, which is the kernel that macOS uses, matching the victim's processor architecture. The payload is placed in a directory named after TrustD, the macOS cryptographic certificate validator, and saved as a com.apple.verified, with the com.apple.quarantine extended attribute stripped to bypass gatekeeper. The malware establishes persistence via fake error dialogues created with OSA script, then steals browser password databases, Apple keychain data, cached credentials from browser cookies, and cryptocurrency wallet assets. Notably, this is the first crypto drainer Huntress has identified that does not empty victim wallets entirely. It can be configured to redirect only a percentage of funds, making the theft harder to detect. Microsoft's security blog confirmed the campaign has shifted tactics from openly serving info stealer lures to hiding them behind a browser fingerprinting gate, making infrastructure harder to detect. I would wonder if our friends at Huntress are listening and whether or not that is 100% accurate. Is this the first one they've seen that only does a portion as opposed to taking it all? This matters because ClickFix campaigns have been evolving throughout 2026, and the variant shows threat actors learning from defensive countermeasures. The browser fingerprinting gate means the same C2 infrastructure that now serves legitimate looking pages to scanners and security tools while delivering malware to real victims. The partial crypto draining capability is particularly insidious. Victims may not notice small percentages of theft for months. Any organization with macOS endpoints, especially those handling cryptocurrency or sensitive credentials, should treat this as an active, adapting threat. What can or should you be doing about this? Well, deploy EDR signatures for ClickFix's Go-based info stealer. Huntress and Microsoft have published IOCs, including the com.apple.verified file name and the trustee directory, and the stripped com.apple.quarantine attributes. Block known ClickFix C2 domains and investigate any macOS endpoints that have executed terminal commands from email linked URLs. You might want to educate your macOS users specifically about ClickFix patterns in emails with quote-unquote fix or update instructions that ask them to paste commands into the terminal. I just hate reading that because I can't believe that people would fall for that from an unknown source. Monitor for unusual OSA script executions. The malware uses the utility to create fake error dialogues, which is common pattern in legitimate macOS workflows. And for cryptocurrency operations, implement transaction monitoring alerts for partial fund redirections, not just full wallet drains. Cowboy?
Well, I'm having the movie Office Space flashbacks, right? Where, oh, we're gonna round it to the nearest thousandth of a penny, right? And siphon off over time, and whoops, a rounding error. Put the decimal in the wrong place.
Yep, put the
Hate
decimal in
it
the
when I
wrong
do
place.
that. Yeah, that's interesting, right? That is a trademark change, if you will, right? From just taking it all and who cares to like, well, maybe we can get more over time from more people if we siphon off slowly. So that's interesting. And also, according to Huntress, the malware communicates with a shared IP address in autonomous system 210644, which is operated by a Russian corporation known as Aza Group. And Asia Group LLC is out of Russia. They have a couple subsidiaries, and they have been sanctioned fairly hardcore for this type of nonsense. So, an alleged attribution there, although they're not a typical APT, if you will, right? This is almost just a weird LLC thing out doing its stuff. So I'll have to do some more research on them. Um, that's interesting, but good. I do enjoy seeing the oldies, but goldies, right? Of
Sure.
phishing emails.
Phishing
Why?
emails. Yeah.
Because it works, right?
It still works.
Fake error messages. Why? Because it works. Because the average person, I think getting into deep in Bitcoin and everything else are not cyber experts.
No, of course
And
not.
the age old stuff still gets them. So, yeah, if it works,
It
if it ain't
works.
broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and it's only, phishing emails are only getting better with the use of AI crafting as opposed to poor language translation, right? So that's a thing too.
Absolutely. Um, I'm still convinced the Nigerian prince loves me, though. I just want to go on record.
Well,
you know,
that's a different
he,
podcast.
he needs more money from me.
All right, in our next story, hackers stalked me, not me, the author of the original story, by hijacking a smartwatch for kids. Wired reporter Andy Greenberg was tracked and eavesdropped on by security researchers Vangelis Sakas and Felipe Solferni. I probably have that really wrong. I apologize, guys. Using a $30 GPS-enabled children's smartwatch sold by CJC and manufactured by a Chinese company. That's as far as I'm going to go. I'm not even going to try and read the name. The researchers demonstrated they could silently track the reporter's location via Wi-Fi network scanning, even when GPS was malfunctioning, take photos from the watch's camera without any visual indicator, and record audio from conversations near the reporter, all without the watch showing any signs of being compromised. At Black Hat USA this year, which sadly Cowboy and I did not get to attend, presented findings from analyzing 70 plus GPS enabled watches and car accessories. They discovered that over 30 geolocation device brands use the SET or SE tracker platform, also branded as Wanlex or Shenzhen 3G Electronics, and another 30 plus brands run on the new GPS 2012, which these are both Shenzhen-based backend platforms. Combines with Sinotrack, these three supply chains account for tens of millions of GPS tracker devices worldwide. All three platforms had significant security flaws, including lack of authentication, allowing anyone to access any device, server-side vulnerabilities enabling remote code execution, and in one case, evidence that someone else had already gained unauthorized backend access. That's frightening. The vulnerabilities allow tracking by hackers, location disabling and spoofing, interception and spoofing of text and audio messages, replacement of emergency contexts, silent audio eavesdropping, and photo and video capture. The SE tracker initially claimed the issues were resolved long before, then asked for evidence of exploitation, which Wired provided from a hacked platform just days earlier. This matters because this is a supply chain scale vulnerability affecting tens of millions of devices across dozens of brands. If your children use GPS smartwatches, you may already be vulnerable. More broadly, the same backend platforms power car GPS trackers, meaning the same flaws could potentially be used to track vehicles, spoof locations, or intercept messages to car accessories. The researchers warned companies for months before presenting at Black Hat, and SE Tracker's claims that the issues were already fixed was a demonstrated lie. What can or should you be doing about this? Well, one, if you're giving your kids a $30 smartwatch, maybe don't do that. If you own or operate any GPS tracker devices, check if they use SE Tracker, New GPS 2012, or Sinotracker's backend platforms. These are the only three supply chains identified as compromised. If you're a parent, like I said, verify the brand and manufacturer of any of your children's smart-enabled stuff, especially the GPS-type smartwatches, which we're talking about here. Devices sold under obscure brands for under $30 are most likely to include these vulnerabilities. Organizations deploying fleet tracking or IoT GPS devices, you should be auditing the back-end platform of your devices. Use and check for authentication and server-side vulnerabilities described by the researchers. Monitor for unauthorized access to your GPS tracking accounts. The lack of authentication on these platforms means anyone with a device ID could potentially access your tracker. And demand security disclosures from IoT device manufacturers before you make your purchases. Cowboy?
Oh, I'm not gonna lie. I'm heated. I'm heated over this story. But I'm gonna do my best
Did
to
you give your
stay
kids $30
somewhat.
smartwatches?
Absolutely not. Like, but I'm not a standard dumb consumer. Sorry, but consumers most consumers these days go off of how many stars somebody rated a product, not what the heck is actually in and behind the product. So, but what one, I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say this. Like, I fully believe, call me conspiracy theorist, I fully believe that too many of these Chinese companies are doing this on purpose. And the fact that they claim they were fixed forever ago
And
and they
did nothing.
easily proved it wasn't,
Yeah.
right? Like, just shows they're full of it. And the fact that it's on kids stuff is what gets me heated. Right? There is a line even for a majority of
Well,
cyber
okay,
gray
pause.
black area.
Pause.
You
Pause.
just
Pause. Pause. Breathe.
okay.
Breathe. Breathe.
So angry.
The $30 smartwatches are generally what parents are buying for kids, but I don't necessarily know that they are being marketed to kids. And I will give you a real Professor CyberRisk example. A very good intended person for Christmas last year provided both of my sons with smartwatches. Both of them were not name brand, were relatively cheap, looked real nice. But the moment I did some checking on them before I even let them turn them on, I realized they had malware on them. Now, the person who bought them didn't know that. They were trying to give a nice present. I could have easily worn this watch if I didn't have a higher end one. It didn't look like it was made for kids. It wasn't a toy, but it was inexpensive. That's why it was going to kids. And that's why I'm saying back off the ledge a little bit. I don't think they're targeting children specifically, although they might be depending on the brand. I don't know, right? But I think that it's just they're targeting a segment of the market that's not going to think about this. They're thinking about raw cost. That's what I think it comes down to.
Fair enough. I did a quick Google search and I'm seeing Blue Kids smartwatch, smartwatch for kids, right? All arguably $40 and under, super fast search. But I specifically asked for GPS smartwatches that use SE tracker or new GPS 2012.
Okay, that's fair.
And yeah, and you've got, Walmart, Verizon, um, a bunch of other major, main companies that are Target that are selling this stuff, and so that's why I get heated because
These
that
companies
is
should know better with the products they're selling. 100% agree with that.
oh god they don't give a hoot,
Yeah, they
right?
don't,
As
right?
long as
Because
they
again,
sell for profit.
yeah, that's right. They're caring
Um,
about their profit. Yep.
and I get it. I'm all about capitalism, right? However, um, as good example, Meta just got smacked. I meant to bring this up when we were talking about Meta, but in the state of New Mexico alone, they were ordered to pay $567 million for child safety endangerment of Meta and their YouTube platform, and that kind
Wait.
of
Meta has Facebook, not YouTube.
sorry, yeah, sorry, I thought it was. Oh yeah, Google has YouTube. That was a different suit. Sorry. Um, for their we'll call it their social media stuff. Instagram. They have Instagram. That's right.
Right.
Instagram and Facebook and others, because they weren't doing enough basically. And while I'm not going to go into was it right or wrong, whatever, because one, I don't know enough, but two, that kind of plays into this, right? Of like, no, I think as a multi-billion-dollar company, you can take an extra step to be like, you know what? Maybe we don't sell this obvious, not just trash, but danger
Yeah.
to our citizens and to our children,
Yeah.
right? I don't, who am I, right? But maybe they don't need, I mean, if it's $30, how much are they really making, right? What's the
Sure.
overhead there?
Right.
It can't be much. So, maybe we don't need to put that on there and make our kids 2% safer. That's a big 2%. You know what I mean?
I agree.
I don't know.
I agree.
And to the parents out there listening who don't think about this, yeah, hopefully this is your wake up call. Like, you know, do some research.
Yeah,
You're buying
don't
electronics for kids, man. Do your
don't
research.
yeah, and you might be thinking, well, who cares because I don't have anything valuable. But you know what? You don't know. You're exposing your level of privacy, your children's privacy, and who knows? God knows what other information that could be within earshot, because you bought the cheapest. You bought the thing either that was cheap because you knew you were giving it to your kid, or you bought something that was inexpensive for you because that's what you can afford. But you should still be thinking about those purchases first and the vulnerabilities they can introduce.
Because you could lose a lot more after the fact.
That's very true. In our last story, a public proof of concept has been released for a use after free vulnerability in the Linux kernel's bridge spanning tree protocol, or STP, implementation. The bug affects any Linux system using kernel-based STP on a network bridge, which includes virtually all systems running Docker containers. There goes your sandboxes that I brought up. Kubernetes clusters, virtual machines, cloud servers, and software-defined networks. So basically everything. The vulnerability occurs when a Linux bridge is deleted while an STP timer is still active. Under specific conditions, kernel-based STP enabled bridge is down state and the port moving to learning state, the kernel can set up an STP timer without verifying the bridge is up. When the bridge is subsequently, wow, my English today, I can't say it.
Subsequently?
Thank you. I just cannot get it out today. Deleted, the timer remains in the kernel's timer queue. When the timer fires, it attempts to access the freed bridge structure, causing a use after free condition from the K-Moloch CG8K slab cache. The proof of concept assumes that the bug triggers kernel crashes, denial of service, and researchers believe the memory corruption could potentially be exploited for privilege escalation by an attacker who can control the memory allocation after the bridge is freed, potentially overriding function pointers to achieve arbitrary code execution. The fix is kernel commit, and it's a long number. I'm not going to read it. I'll try to remember to put it into the show notes, which ensures STP timers are properly canceled during bridge deletion. This matters because Linux bridges are foundational infrastructure. They exist in nearly every containerized, virtualized, or cloud environment. The attack surface includes any system where an attacker can trigger bridge creation and delete with STP enabled, which is common in container orchestration, network plugin operations, and cloud infrastructure management. A local attacker with the ability to create and delete network interfaces, or remote attackers exploiting a higher level vulnerability that triggers bridge operation, could crash the systems or potentially achieve kernel level code execution. So what should you do? Well, you should apply that kernel patch to all systems running Linux kernels prior to the fix. This affects, as I said before, Docker hosts, Kubernetes nodes, and cloud servers, and any infrastructure using Linux network bridges. So basically everything, because your networks run on Linux. They're not running on Windows. If you cannot immediately patch, disable kernel-based STP on bridges where it is not strictly required. The vulnerability only triggers when the kernel STP is enabled. Audit container runtimes and network plugin configurations to understand which bridges are created and whether STP is enabled by default. Monitor system logs for unexpected bridge deletion events or kernel crashes related to STP timers, which can indicate exploitation attempts. And for cloud environments, coordinate with your provider to confirm their kernel versions include the fix, particularly for managed Kubernetes and container services. Cowboy?
For those that don't know what an STP is, it's a spanning tree protocol found at our wonderful layer 2, our data link layer, right? That builds loop-free logical topologies for your Ethernet access. So, and it can do a myriad of things behind that. So, fairly significant impact there. Anything impacting the kernel level is yikes, right?
Yep.
There's only 2 levels worse than that, right?
Firmware would be worse.
Yeah, firmware, and I'm pretty sure the boot record is below the kernel in regards to
Yes. So it would be firmware, boot
That's the
record,
worst.
and then
Yeah,
kernel, and then the rest of
kernel.
your system, right? Yeah. So like
Yeah.
we're talking super low level parts of the operation of your systems.
Yeah, low level being important and
Yes.
hard
Yes.
to fix and get rid of malware that hits those levels. Those are anything at the kernel level or below for a rootkit, right, is really, really nasty. So this is anything hitting the kernel level like I said, it's yikes. You want to get after it with a fix. This is a immediate type fix because of the impact it can have on your system. So
Yum.
yeah,
So
Linux.
good. But it's everywhere. That's what I mean. This is everywhere, which is funny. This is so funny to me because I was running on one of my AI inference systems, kernel 7.0, I think. And I noticed that the Comfy UI instance on that server just wasn't working right. Just couldn't figure it out. I had to roll back to kernel 6.17 to actually get things to work properly, which means I definitely don't have this commit at this point. So now I'm going to have to figure out how to make that work. Yay.
Yay.
Don't worry, everybody. The professor's AI inference system is not internet facing, so I am the local person. So if you're out there and you use an elite hacksaw and you want to do it, you're going to have to get into my network first. Good luck. What else you got for us, Cowboy?
Yeah, well, first I want to say, hey, to the community who listens to us, 1, thank you so much for your continued support and dedication, and 2, would love to hear some comments on our sandboxing discussion.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear what the community has to say.
Hashtag air gap.
Yeah, I will shout out to you on the next show if you take my side. So just saying, some incentive to sway public opinion. But drop us a note. What do you think about what is and isn't sandboxing? Does it count? Just would love to hear what the community thinks on that, because it's not a white or black. It is.
And it's okay that we look at it differently. We're both experts in our field, and we both, we cover a lot of ground. I'm not mad. I'm not mad.
I'm not mad either.
Okay,
no,
good.
I'm not. I love you too much to ever stay mad at you.
I don't know if I don't know if that's true, but
we bounce back and forth so good. So
yes,
that's why people aren't here for the stories; they're here for us. That's what I think.
Keep it okay.
That's what I think. Don't let me live my life.
You could have it. Yeah, you could easily have it. Anything else for us?
My parting shots. AI didn't escape the sandbox. The sandbox apparently came with a highway on-ramp. So I am the Cyber Cowboy. Stay frosty, everybody.
And I'm the professor of CyberRisk, even with my lacking English skills this evening. That's all the news for this week, and we'll talk again soon.
If you like this podcast, share it with your colleagues and friends. Your support is how we are able to continue to make this content. Thank you.